when public art goes wrong. Destroyed in 2 days.
Public art is a tricky thing to get right. Unlike art in a museum, which people deliberately pay to see, public art is often not deliberately paid for by the public and is usually constructed in high traffic areas where you're gonna see it every day on your way to work. So if you're an artist being commissioned to make a public piece of art—
I need to see the butt plug art piece. Where is that? Where is it? Traveling light. What the fuck is this? What?
Light stuck on top of it. It measures about 55 feet tall and across and boasts a whopping 2.3 stars on Google reviews. Yeah, when this thing was first installed, the people of Calgary were not super happy.
Yeah,
not
no,
only because the art
understandably.
here is abstract and odd, but mostly because the art here cost $471,000 in taxpayer money and public
Taxpayer money? You paid $471,000 for this fucking garbage overly sized hula hoop with cockroach antennas? Bro, you could have used this on anything else. You could have used this on the fucking elderly who are gonna up and die in the next upcoming 3 months, and people would still be more happy with that.
funding. Calgary's got a tricky history with public art, mostly because of how much money is sunk into it. In fact, they even have legislation that requires any—
What even is this? It's just wood with pieces of rock on top of it. Bro! So they're just wasting their money at this point.
have legislation that requires any public construction project under $50 million to set aside 1% of its budget to public art, leading to a bit of a surplus of controversy.
What even is this? Like, who was like, oh my god, yes, I want this in our city right now? Bro.
Controversial sculptures popping up around the city. Traveling Light in particular was so controversial, even the mayor called it awful, as the art
Even the fucking mayor hates it.
was approved right before he could enter office.
What?
Eventually, the people had had enough of this madness, and the government officials spoke up about the absurdness of the Big Blue Ring. And in 2023, the city council hosted an emergency meeting where they approved the construction of a second traveling light ring. It's to be placed somewhere else in the city, but to my knowledge, it has yet to actually be funded. So, I mean, well, we'll just have to wait and see. And in the meantime, just thank goodness that most of us don't live in Calgary.
You're joking.
Number 9.
You're joking. They went like, oh yeah, bro, we hate this shit. We hate this garbage so much. Let's build another one.
Morning Sun.
Nah.
We're traveling down south to the wealthy city of Carmel, Indiana, where in the middle of a roundabout you can find whatever this is supposed to be. Created by sculptor Brad Howe, Morning Sun is a abstract piece made from steel and urethane resin. It
What the fuck? Where is the sun? I see a fucking black and white coronavirus and some weird carving of the Polish flag, but that's it, brother mans. Dude, what the fuck is this?
measures 16 feet tall and features a red and white body topped with a interpretive, spiky ball looking thing. When it was erected in the beginning of 2021, it was compared mostly to a COVID-19 virus. While others saw it as a big, fat, round, hairy, kiwi fruit, of course. Which makes no sense because kiwis aren't even grown in Indiana.
I didn't pre-watch
Actually, a
this.
kiwi is just what I see. Most people just call the statue Harry Ball. Costing a modest $209,000, Morning Sun is just one of 17 sculptures that have been built in Carmel roundabouts. Together, costing over $5 million of 17 sculptures.
Okay, but this one's fucking pretty. I'm not gonna lie. It's a flower with like fucking sparks coming out of it with stars and moons on it, bro. That's pretty. I like that. That's kind of cool.
That have been built in Carmel roundabouts.
But the hairy ball? Are you joking? What the fuck is that? What is that? Nah.
Sculptures really faced any backlash. Besides this one, not only was it expensive and not super appealing to most, but it was constructed right outside of a brand new luxury apartment complex. In fact, a close friend of mine actually lived in one of these street view units at the time it was constructed, and it had a perfect view of the sculpture. Here you're seeing some of my own boots on the ground coverage.
It's so ugly.
Facing scrutiny, it was debated whether the sculpture should stay or not. And in late 2022, at the cost of an additional $50,000, the sculpture was eventually moved to a different roundabout 2 miles north, where it sits closer to 2 roundabouts that also feature some of Brad Howe's sculptures.
Oh my god.
Number 8. Talus Dome.
Huh?
We're moving back to Alberta, Canada, this time to the city of Edmonton. And what better place to put a $600,000 public art piece than the side of a busy highway? Built by Ball Noga.
Dude, trichophobia goes crazy.
This studio in 2011, Talus Dome is a welded pile of nearly 1,000 stainless steel spheres. This sculpture has been mocked constantly throughout its 14-year existence. It's of course scrutinized for its expensive construction cost, but also for the fact that no one seems to know what it's supposed to be. Some people think it's a stack of marbles, while others see a giant pile of rabbit droppings that have been spray painted, as if everything in Edmonton needs to be chrome. In reality, Talus Dome derives its name from talus slopes, which are a geological formation. They are these piles of eroded rock that used to exist in the same spot as the sculpture before the highway was constructed here. It's surprising that this sculpture itself hasn't been eroded away by vandals, because it has been vandalized on 3 separate occasions so far with varying degrees of damage. But
dude,
probably the best story surrounding the Talus Dome occurred in 2023 when a
you know what they should have done? They should have fucking painted it brown.
Grown 26-year-old man tried to climb the Talus Dome, slipped in between the spheres and became trapped inside.
Some dude is stuck inside the Talus balls. Look at this.
It's got to be a fate worse than death, being stuck in the balls like that one scene from The Incredibles. But luckily, the fire department was called and the man was saved. And promptly fined $5,000 in criminal negligence charges, in addition to the cost to repair the sculpture from the damage caused by the rescue.
How the fuck did he get in the first place? If it cost him $5,000 to get fucking pulled or like taken out, how did he get in?
And I have a feeling that that wasn't cheap either. Number 7, Tilted Arc. We're ping-ponging back to the States, this time to New York City, and the year of 1981 when this massive sculpture was constructed right in the middle of the busy, fully federal plaza. Created by artist Richard Serra, Tilted Arc at first looks...
Artist? Well, I might as well call every single fucking kindergartner a goddamn artist, because, dude, like, even a fucking fetus could make this. It's literally a metal plane that you just stuck into the ground, and it's leaning, so you could call it the fucking leaning tower of fucking Pisa if you wanted to, but it's just bad structural integrity that caused it to lean. So, like, what the fuck?
Looks like a giant sheet of rust-covered steel. And that's exactly what it is. This somewhat inconveniently placed sculpture measured 12 feet tall and 2.5 inches thick.
Why? It looks depressing
and
as
120
shit.
feet long, which made it long enough to cause a lot of outrage among pedestrians. With a construction cost of $175,000, about $600,000 in today's money, the tilted...
A fucking tilted metal rusty plane cost you $600,000, and it's bad for pedestrians because it makes you like go around it.
The Arc was seen as an expensive eyesore and a massive inconvenience to the large plaza. Locals claim the sculpture made the plaza feel much more cold and closed off than it used to. It supposedly made the location feel less social and heavily impeded foot traffic, as people had to make their long way around it to navigate across the plaza. Many discussions were had and trials were held, with folks lobbying to have the sculpture removed. However, Richard Serra, along with many art lovers, all shamed those who wanted to take it down. They particularly...
Are you joking?
particularly shamed the government, as it was the government who commissioned Sarah to build the Ark in the first place, and the Ark was promised to be a permanent display. And because it was so large and heavy, to remove it would mean destroying it. It was eventually ruled that because the Ark was funded by the government, it was thus owned by the government, and it was the government's decision to destroy it 8 years after its construction. Yes, to the joy of many, but to the dismay of many others, including Richard Serra. And although Serra just recently passed away in 2024, many of his works and sculptures still exist. Many very similar to, but much less controversial than his tilted Ark. Number 6, The Embrace.
Bro.
We're staying on the East Coast, but moving to Boston, Massachusetts, where in 2023, this massive bronze sculpture was erected in the Boston Commons. The sculpture depicts the hugging arms of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his wife, Coretta Scott King. It is based off of this famous photo of Dr. King shortly after receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. The statue measures 25 feet wide and 20 feet tall, and is meant to be a monument to Dr. King.
I'm not gonna lie, it looks really creepy though. Like really creepy, like uncanny fucking creepy.
His legacy as a leader in the civil rights movement.
That is...
So, what seems to be the problem here? The sculpture doesn't seem controversial, and although it cost about $10 million to build, it was largely funded through a non-profit organization, not through the government. Well, the thing is, when you actually view the
Why does it look like a massive cock?
Sculpture from the ground in the round, it's not really easy to tell what it is.
Yeah.
In fact, because the sculpture features no faces or obvious hints as to what it's supposed to represent, many people who saw the sculpture for the first time saw a variety of different things from different angles.
It's not the missing heads that's the atrocity, although people glam onto that. It's a stump that looks like a penis.
Yes, from many angles.
Yo, the pre-watch is insane. Yo, the pre-watch is insane. Am I just fucking calling everything out at this point? Like, what the fuck, man? It's just, dude.
Angles, the sculpture looks rather phallic, especially from this one. The controversy behind the sculpture spread around the world, with many harsh comments directed towards the city for approving such an interpretive, abstract-ish piece of art. And the artist himself, Hank Willis Thomas, gained quite a bit of scrutiny, but luckily he didn't seem too bothered and put down by the harsh comments.
When you put art in the world, you can't control what people see. You know, I think about the Rorschach test, the inkblot test, you know?
Nowadays, the sculpture isn't too much of a problem, as most people know what it's supposed to be by this point, and most people can appreciate what it represents. But it is still common for some first-time passerbys to get a little confused at what they're looking at.
Yeah, no, understandably
Number 5.
so.
The Madrid obelisk.
Wait, we've seen about this one before.
We're finally escaping North America to Madrid, Spain, where in this big honking roundabout, you can find a big honking bronze spike. Built in 2009 and designed by architect Santiago Calatrava, this structure was supposed to be a grand landmark of Madrid.
You know what it looks like? It looks like a fucking needle. Like the shit that they stick in you whenever they want to fucking like draw your blood or like give you a vaccine. Dude, that looks like a massive needle.
Dedicated to the city's 300th anniversary. The tall spike is clad in 462 bronze strips that move and flow, giving the sculpture a very organic look. The controversy behind this piece actually doesn't come from its appearance, but
dude, I would piss myself. If I saw that in real life, I would actually fucking like have night terrors, bro. I would be fucking shitting myself in public. That is terrifying. What do you mean that's
rather its conception. In the original plans, the spike was supposed to reach a height of 120 meters, but the land it sits on is undermined by 3 major metro lines. This meant the ground was much too hollow to support the massive weight of a 120-meter bronze spike, so they had to shrink the project down to only 92 meters. The project also was not very cheap, costing an estimated 14 million euros to build, which was much more than what was anticipated even before.
19,460,000 USD 2009 estimate. A $20 fucking million project in current day and age. That is insane.
Before the project was shrunk. Luckily to the taxpayers of Madrid, the obelisk was a donation to the city by a large bank firm.
Wow.
Unluckily for the taxpayers, once the construction cost was initially increased, the bank requested the city to donate a large lump sum of cash to help support the construction of the city's own gift.
Of course.
Luckily for the taxpayers of the city was able to refuse this request, and the bank was able to cough up enough money to finish their own project.
Get fucked!
Unluckily for the city, once it was finished and the sculpture was powered on, the cost to maintain the heavy hydraulic system that moved all the bronze ribbons went on to exceed 6,000 euros per day. This money was all coming from taxpayer dollars, and after only 1 month of operation, the hydraulics were turned off and the sculpture has remained still ever since.
Good!
Contrary to the obelisk's initial goal of being a major landmark for Spain, and to even match the significance of the likes of Paris's Eiffel Tower, the Caja Madrid obelisk now just kind of stands as a landmark for horrible city planning.
Yeah, crazy.
Number 4, the orbit. This one's a little less easy to draw. We're taking a short flight from Madrid to London, where it's pretty hard to miss this massive twisted steel sculpture. Costing a whopping 24 million British pounds, this project was built and luckily largely privately
40 million USD.
funded by the ArcelorMittal steel manufacturer. The orbit was originally constructed for the 2012 Summer Olympic Games and was to serve as a permanent monument to the event. The sculpture measures 115 meters tall and is comprised largely of red tubular steel that twists and winds all around a central trunk. Unlike most art, this sculpture is not just for show, as in the central trunk is an elevator that takes visitors up to a large observation deck. You can also get your steps in by taking the massive spiral staircase that winds around the central trunk. The orbit was designed by artist Anj Kapoor, who's most famous for his Cloudgate sculpture in Chicago. Kapoor is known for making very abstract art, and because the orbit was no exception, when it was finally unveiled to the world, most people were a bit confused as to what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's meant to be like a torch or something. I don't even know what it meant to be. It looks weird.
Some people saw a giant mutilated roller coaster, while others thought it looked like an abstract Olympic.
I also wanted to say that. I was like, damn, it just looks like a fucking messed up roller coaster.
Torch. But most people just had no idea what they were looking at. Some locals even thought the structure was still under construction when it was revealed, because they thought it just looked like a bunch of scaffolding. Since the Olympics are a fairly large and globally televised event, spitballs came flying from critics across the globe, with people pretty disappointed at what they were left to look at. But it was...
Who the fuck is that? What does that hairdo? What is that?
Disappointed at what they were left to look at, but it was London locals who were most concerned, since, as mentioned, this was meant to be a permanent installation to the city. Moreover, if you wanted to go inside the sculpture up to the observation deck, it cost a whopping £15 to do so.
Of course,
and that's in 2012. Even Anj Kapoor himself was pretty upset to learn how much was being charged.
So for the 3 weeks of the Olympics, the price I think is ridiculously high.
After the Olympics, the orbit stood normal for 4 years until in 2016, the city decided they wanted to add some fun to the sculpture and commissioned another artist to design a massive 178-meter slide to the tower. Okay, now we're talking. This helped the orbit kind of ascend from the level of an abstract sculpture to a genuine tourist attraction. The slide was met with positive feedback, and today, the prices to visit are even lower than they once were when the tower first opened, now at just £7 to go up into the
Wait, you're telling me that this is actually still a thing now? You can, dude, I'm gonna be completely fair. Slides fucking terrify me because, dude, the burn that you get from your ass cheeks or your skin on the fucking like tube when you're sliding through it, oh hell no. No. Imagine going through like 100 meters of fucking tube straight up. Like, dude, no.
Observation deck and £14 to also go down the slide.
Nah, you too thick.
And a £5 booking fee for every order.
It's like if you're wearing like a skirt or shorts or anything and you're just out on a vacation and like your friends are like, oh, let's go down the slide, you know? And you're like, yeah, let's do that, bro. No, oh my gosh.
Number 3.
Fuck that vessel. Shit. The vessel?
And that's enough of Europe, because we're heading back to New York City. We're on the Hudson Yards.
Another garbage New York
Arts Public
sculpture.
Square in Manhattan. This massive sculpture was constructed and opened in 2019.
Yo, you know what that looks like? That looks like one of those like acorn thingies, like the fucking trees have on them. No, that looks kind of sick. I like that. That's
The vessel was
badass.
designed by designer Thomas Heatherwick,
Pine
and
cones!
like Anish Kapoor's Orbit, the vessel is an interactive sculpture. It is made out of carbon steel,
Wait, I
which
like
probably
that.
makes it one of the heaviest sculptures on the list. It's also pretty tall, measuring at
steel. No, that
150
looks
feet
really
in
cool.
height, and is comprised of 154 flights of stairs with 80 landings that kind of act as small observation decks. Fortunately, the vessel was privately funded by a large real estate developer because
Surely.
the final construction cost was estimated to be between $150 to $200 million, which makes it the most costly piece of art on our list.
I mean,
so then
it
what
was
makes
made
the
with
vessel
like this
so
heavy ass
problematic?
metal.
And why is privately funded in quotation marks? Well, when it was first constructed, Hudson Yards, where the sculpture sits, claimed all ownership
Yeah.
of any photos taken of the sculpture.
What?
This did not go over very well with the public, mainly because this claim is
It's a
ridiculous
fucking
and almost
public
impossible to
art
enforce,
piece.
but also because at the time the vessel was constructed, nearly $4.5 billion in taxpayer money had been sunken into the Hudson Yards area. And who is one of the main real estate developers in Hudson Yards?
Oh my God.
The same developer that paid for the construction of the vessel. Ooh, yeah,
Of
so
course.
this was not a very good look for the developer or the Hudson Yards as a location,
up.
and they promptly retracted their strict photo policy.
Good.
Aside from this hubbub, the actual appearance of the piece was also a little controversial.
Mm-hmm.
Some criticized the piece for being a useless staircase to nowhere, and many think it just looks like a giant shawarma. The vessel has also been slated
Yo, wait, I'll take the giant shawarma. Yo, I want that giant shawarma.
as
What the
not being
fuck? Yeah,
very
give me some.
wheelchair accessible. In fact, most staircases aren't, according to my research. Although it does feature a single glass elevator that can take guests up to the top observation deck, it's a pretty slow and low capacity ride for an area as busy as New York City. And if you want to go to the top level of the structure today, you can't because it is closed off to the public. Why? Well, that's why.
No fucking way. 3 people?
Within just 18 months of opening, 3 people had taken their own lives by leaping over the glass barriers surrounding the staircase of the vessel.
Dude.
This forced the closure of the structure until a solution to the problem was found and put in place in the form of a net that surrounds all accessible areas. The top level remained closed as netting could not be put around the whole area. This netting proved not to be a very effective solution, as when the vessel was reopened, a 14-year-old boy managed to bypass the safety nets and another life was lost. After this, the vessel remained closed for over 3 years until it was finally reopened in October of 2024 with much taller steel mesh nets now in place to make further incidents hopefully impossible. I don't know why my videos always take a dark turn around the number 3 mark, but
Yeah, bro,
we're
that's
done with
fucking
number 3,
depressing,
so let's
dude.
move on.
What the fuck?
Number 2, the portal.
Portal?
Now this one's a sort of two-parter, with point A conveniently in New York City,
Of course.
and point B across the globe in Dublin, Ireland.
Of
Created by
course.
Ernest Benedictus Guise, the portal
Wait, I've
is basically
seen
a
this shit. I've seen I've seen this shit before, and it got so much like hate on Twitter. So many people were talking about it. It was insane.
giant
Like
public webcam that displays
vandalization,
live feeds
people
between
fucking
two city streets and allows people to interact with each
showing
other from
themselves,
across
like,
the
tits
world.
and
One
naked
side
and
of
stuff.
the portal was placed on a busy
Nah.
pedestrian street in Manhattan, and the other in a comparative spot in central Dublin. The New York to Dublin portal was actually a successor to an already existing portal that the artist had
Wow.
already built, connecting the cities of Vilnius, Lithuania, and Lublin, Poland. So if the first portal worked so well, then what could go wrong with a portal between New York City and Dublin?
The people in New York are absolutely insane. You really think that nothing is gonna go wrong?
Now, passerbys in both countries actually loved their new art installation and begun sharing their love for each other through the portal. But of course, before very much time, there were a few whippersnappers that stepped in and just had to ruin the fun for everyone. Both sides of the portal had people exposing themselves to the poor, unsuspecting souls across the world. You had everything from an OnlyFans model exposing herself to Dubliners flashing photos of 9/11 to New York. You know, just the expected stuff. And as a result of all this, the portal did not even make it 1 week until it had to be shut down. It was turned off for just 6 days, and in that time, a fence barrier was installed around the portals, and new technology was implemented that would cause the camera feed to blur if someone got too close. This prevented more people from showing offensive photos from their phones. The portal still actually exists today, but not as such. The Dublin installation still exists, but the New York sign was moved to Philadelphia. Just
of course it was, because there's only insane people in New York. Why would
3 months
you place
after it
one
was
there?
turned back on. The portals still operate and have even had another installation pop up in Piauí, Brazil. This makes 5 portals in total that still stand strong despite their occasional and unfortunate abuse. Number 1, the tree. Our artistic journey comes to an end in Paris, France, where in October of 2014, for a brief time, if you were lucky, you could have been walking around the streets of Paris and could have seen this. It is a giant 24-meter tall inflatable structure that is supposed to look like a giant Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And boy, does it look like a Christmas tree and absolutely nothing else. Just giving that tree at Rockefeller Center a run for its money. But apparently, most of the public did see something else other than a Christmas tree. I can't imagine what. And criticism came flying.
What else would it be?
In fact, the backlash for this piece was so swift that as it was being installed and publicly inflated for the first time, the tree's artist, Paul McCarthy, was brutally attacked and beaten by a passerby. Paul McCarthy was already known for creating controversial pieces in the Christmas spirit, most notably this one. Just keep using your imagination as
He made the same. He made the same. He's the one that made this too. They also made this one. Oh my god, that's crazy. Wow, I wonder what this one is. I wonder
as to why this one is controversial as well. Once the installation was complete, photos of the phallic inflatable spread like wildfire, and many were pretty furious that this now stood as a massive, unavoidable landmark in the city. It only took about a week until a group of vandals was bold enough to take action and destroyed the entire massive sculpture by hand, which just consisted of cutting power to the blowers that kept the thing inflated. The tree could have been easily re-inflated, so
you couldn't have like at least fucking slashed it with a knife or something? Like, what the fuck, little bro? Dude, you couldn't have like cut it open?
So as to actually make it to Christmas, but Paul McCarthy himself actually decided against it, and it was permanently removed from the streets of Paris. So in the end, most of the city and the world hated the sculpture. Not everyone, some people wanted it to stay, but most people hated it, and it was quickly removed with consent from the artist.
Wow.
So did anything good come of the tree? Well, a couple local specialty shops did see a massive increase in sales of one particular item. What were they called? Oh yeah, butt plug. So there's my list here. If I sound a little different, it's because I've contracted the flu whilst editing this video. That's besides the point. There are hundreds and possibly thousands of other controversial art pieces out there in the world. And if you want to learn about more,
of doo-doo? That's literally poop. Somebody just fucking made a poop skull. That's insane.
I suggest you watch this video from Building Tales here on YouTube.
You
should watch it not only because he covers the Santa Claus sculpture here in more detail, but also because he covers a bunch of other.
This one's in the Netherlands, by the way, guys.
He covers the Santa Claus sculpture here.
It's in Rotterdam. That's where we're going to have TwitchCon this year. So if you want to go see the plug gnome, you can. You can literally step outside of the fucking TwitchCon venue and see Mr. Santa Claus himself.
Here in more detail, but also because he covers a bunch of other stuff we did not look at.
I'm good.
And also you should watch it because he uploaded this video when I was in the middle of making mine.
Oh,
and now I feel like a content thief. So
nah, brother mans, you good? That was a good video. That was a really good video. I skipped the first part because I was like, oh, there's nothing really interesting that they're talking about. But yeah, it was fun. What the fuck?